Did you just play Juliet?
Juliet Nichols requires special handling.
What if Juliet Nichols just made the algorithm do exactly what she wanted? Or, more disturbingly, what if the algorithm only pretended to let Juliet win? Because that's what makes the ending of episode 6 so interesting. On the surface, Juliet has finally found a way to negotiate with the system controlling Silo 18. She gets the algorithm to approve a mission to Silo 17, where survivors are trapped inside a bunker that's slowly filling with water. But Juliet isn't going herself. She's sending Lukas, Kyle, and Patrick Kennedy. And that changes everything. Because Juliet's real objective isn't simply to rescue the children, she wants information. She wants to know what's happening inside Silo 17. She wants to talk to Solo. And most importantly, she wants him to find the outflow connected to the Silo safeguard, the system that can potentially release the poison that kills everyone inside. So Juliet isn't just trying to save Silo 17. She's trying to use Silo 17 to uncover the one piece of information that could eventually give the people of Silo 18 leverage over the algorithm. And the way she gets permission to do it is fascinating. She doesn't challenge the algorithm directly, she manipulates its priorities.
I know what happened when I went outside. In Silo 17, there are kids, and I want to bring them back.
She gives it a problem it can't easily dismiss. There are children trapped in another silo. People are dying. A rescue is possible. And Juliet wants to send a team. The algorithm initially refuses. So Juliet changes the equation. And that's where the real chess game begins. Juliet knows she can't beat the algorithm directly. Juliet has learned something very important about the system. You can't simply tell it that it's wrong. You can't threaten it. And you certainly can't expect it to suddenly care about individual human lives. The algorithm is operating according to its own definition of survival. The silo comes first. Stability comes first. The population comes second. And individual people can be sacrificed whenever the system decides that their survival threatens the larger structure. Juliet knows this, so instead of asking the algorithm to abandon its principles, she uses those principles against it. Her argument is essentially the following. Silo 17 can still be saved. And if Silo 17 can be saved without putting Silo 18 at unacceptable risk, then the algorithm has a reason to allow the mission. That's clever. But there's another layer to it. Because Juliet doesn't just want to rescue people, she wants the people she sends into Silo 17 to find something. And that means the algorithm isn't only deciding whether to approve a rescue. It's deciding whether to allow Juliet to investigate one of the most dangerous secrets in the entire silo system, the safeguard, the outflow, the mechanism that could potentially expose a weakness in the system. So when the algorithm says no to Knox and Shirley, Juliet doesn't give up. She changes the team. And that's when we get Lukas and Patrick. The strangest part is how quickly the algorithm agrees. This is the moment that should make us suspicious. Juliet originally wants Knox and Shirley. The algorithm says they're too valuable. Camille agrees. Juliet then proposes Lukas, Kyle, and Patrick Kennedy, two men who are already considered dangerous, two men with very different relationships to the existing power structure. And suddenly, the algorithm agrees. Almost immediately. Why? That is the question. Because if Juliet has genuinely outsmarted the algorithm, this is a huge victory for her. She's found a loophole. She's discovered what the system is willing to accept. She's essentially forced the algorithm to choose between allowing the mission to happen or appearing completely unreasonable. And Juliet gets her way. But then the episode gives us information that Juliet doesn't have. The algorithm tells Camille that Lukas and Patrick aren't expected to survive. And suddenly that apparent victory looks a lot less like a victory. Because the algorithm didn't simply approve Juliet's plan. It approved a version of the plan that it could control. That distinction is everything. What if Juliet thinks she chose Lukas and Patrick? This is where I think the theory gets really interesting. From Juliet's perspective, she's making a strategic decision. The algorithm won't allow Knox and Shirley to go. Fine. Then send Lukas and Patrick. They are expendable enough that the algorithm will accept them. And because they're already outsiders, they may also be more willing to take the risks involved. So Juliet thinks she's found the perfect replacement team. But what if the algorithm knew that was going to happen? What if it understood Juliet well enough to predict her next move? Because think about the situation. The algorithm doesn't need to stop the mission completely. It only needs to make sure that the people Juliet sends don't come back with what she wants. That's a much easier problem to solve. And that's exactly what appears to be happening. The algorithm accepts Lukas and Patrick because it already sees them as expendable. So Juliet may believe she's found the combination that allows her plan to move forward. But the algorithm may be thinking, of all the people you could have chosen, you picked the two I wanted you to pick. That's not a compromise, that's a trap. But Juliet has a secret advantage. Here's the thing, the algorithm may have underestimated one part of Juliet's plan. It knows she wants to rescue Silo 17. It probably knows she wants information. But it may not know exactly how much Juliet already understands. Because Juliet has recovered her memories. That's huge. The system spent enormous effort suppressing information and controlling what people remember. But Juliet has broken through that. And now she's operating with knowledge that the algorithm never wanted her to have. So when Juliet proposes Lukas and Patrick, we have to ask the following. Is she actually choosing them because they're the best people for the mission? Or is she choosing them because she knows something the algorithm doesn't? Maybe Juliet understands that Lukas and Patrick have specific skills or relationships that make them more useful than Knox and Shirley. Maybe she believes they can accomplish something Knox and Shirley couldn't. Or maybe she's deliberately sending people the algorithm considers expendable because she knows they are exactly the people who can move without the same restrictions. We don't know yet. And that's what makes the decision so interesting. Because Juliet may be hiding her real objective in plain sight. She's saying, I need a rescue team. But what she really needs is the following. I need someone inside Silo 17 who can find the information I can't reach from here. And the algorithm may understand that. The algorithm has one enormous advantage. The algorithm doesn't need to know everything. It only needs to know enough. It knows how people behave. It knows what they fear. It knows what they're willing to sacrifice. It knows how Camille thinks. And now it has had plenty of time to study Juliet. That's why the memory manipulation matters so much. Vitamin D Plus isn't just another sinister plot device. It's evidence of the algorithm's preferred method of control. It doesn't always need to physically stop people. It can manipulate what they remember. It can manipulate what they believe. It can manipulate what they think other people believe. And ultimately can manipulate the decisions people make. That's much more powerful than simply putting someone in a cell. Because if you can influence someone's understanding of reality, you don't have to force them to make a decision. You can make them believe the decision was theirs. And that's exactly what I'm wondering about Juliet. What if the algorithm wants her to think she's winning? Imagine you're the algorithm. You know Juliet is dangerous. You know she has recovered memories. You know she wants answers. And you know that trying to physically stop her could turn her into an even bigger symbol for rebellion. So what's the smarter move? Let her believe she's winning. Let her negotiate. Let her choose the rescue team. Let her believe she has discovered a weakness in your decision-making, and then quietly manipulate the outcome. That's much more efficient. Because Juliet becomes less suspicious, she thinks she has found a way around the system. And meanwhile, the system has already planned for the people she sends. That could explain why the algorithm agrees so quickly to Lukas and Patrick. It isn't necessarily being convinced. It may simply be recognizing an opportunity. But what if Juliet knows that too? And this is where I don't want to give the algorithm too much credit. Because Juliet isn't naive. She knows she's being manipulated. She knows Camille is lying to her. She knows the algorithm isn't telling her everything. So there's another possibility. What if Juliet is deliberately giving the algorithm the impression that it has successfully manipulated her? What if she knows Lukas and Patrick are walking into danger? And what if that's part of her calculation? Because Juliet doesn't necessarily need Lukas and Patrick to survive in order to achieve her objective. She needs them to find something. If they can reach Solo, if they can reach the lower parts of Silo 17, if they can locate the outflow, then even if the mission goes badly, Juliet could still get the information she needs. That means the algorithm's plan to eliminate Lukas and Patrick may not necessarily eliminate Juliet's plan. It could actually expose the algorithm. And that gives us the real possibility that we're watching a double bluff. Juliet knows the algorithm will sacrifice people. The algorithm knows Juliet knows this. Juliet knows that the algorithm knows. At that point, we're not watching a normal rebellion anymore. We're watching two sides trying to predict each other's predictions. And that's why Silo 17 matters so much. Silo 17 isn't important just because there are people trapped there. It's important because it contains information. The people inside it have already lived through things that Silo 18 hasn't. Solo knows things. The children know things. The flooding has exposed parts of the silo that were never supposed to matter to anyone. And somewhere in that silo is potentially the information about the safeguard that Juliet needs. So sending Lukas and Patrick there could be one of the most important moves Juliet has made all season, because she's not going herself. She's effectively turning them into her eyes and ears inside a silo the algorithm doesn't want her investigating. And that creates another possibility. Maybe Juliet's real objective isn't to get Lukas and Patrick back alive. Maybe it's to get information back to Silo 18. If that's the case, then the algorithm has a serious problem, because killing the messengers doesn't necessarily destroy the information. So WHO is actually playing WHO. This is where I think Season 3 gets really clever. Juliet is trying to manipulate the algorithm. She hides her real objective behind a rescue mission. She changes the team when the algorithm rejects Knox and Shirley. She chooses Lukas and Patrick, and she gets the approval she wants. But the algorithm is doing the same thing. It allows the mission. It allows Juliet to choose. And then it tells Camille that the men she chose are unlikely to survive. So both sides are manipulating the other. Juliet thinks, I found a way to make the algorithm accept my plan. The algorithm thinks, I found a way to make Juliet choose my preferred outcome. And the terrifying possibility is that both could be right. Because Juliet may have successfully manipulated the algorithm into allowing the mission. And the algorithm may have successfully manipulated Juliet into choosing Lukas and Patrick. That's what makes this so much more interesting than simply saying, the algorithm is evil. The real conflict isn't good versus evil, it's information versus information. Who knows more? Who is hiding more? And who realizes what the other side is doing? My prediction, I think Lukas's and Patrick's mission to Silo 17 is going to become a test of this entire theory. If the algorithm's plan is simply to eliminate them, then Juliet may have underestimated how much control it still has. But if Lukas and Patrick manage to uncover something important before the algorithm can stop them, then Juliet may have pulled off something much bigger. She may have used the algorithm's own logic against it. Because the algorithm allowed the mission to happen precisely because it believed Lukas and Patrick were expendable. But Juliet may have chosen them for precisely the same reason. They're expendable to the algorithm, which means they may be able to go places other people can't. And that would make the algorithm's apparent advantage its weakness. But there's one final possibility I can't ignore. What if the algorithm actually wanted Lukas and Patrick to go? What if there's something in Silo 17 that it needs them to activate, discover, or expose? What if Juliet's entire plan is being anticipated? And what if the reason the algorithm is so confident isn't because it can stop Lukas and Patrick, but because it already knows what they're going to find? That's the question I think we need to keep watching. Because Juliet may have finally learned how to play the algorithm, but the algorithm has been playing this game for much longer. And right now, we have no idea who just made the winning move. Maybe Juliet forced the machine to compromise. Maybe the machine manipulated her into making the perfect choice. Or maybe they're both manipulating each other, and neither one realizes how deep the game has already gone.